Must be something in the water or something in the air. I can feel it getting stronger. The sounds are all there. It's written in the stars. It's printed in the sand. It's a whisper getting louder, a whisper in the wind. It's time to be free. It's time to be free. From the east to the west, from the south to the north, there's a beautiful awakening. It's time to be free. Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, Jean Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Wednesday, September 4th, 2024. The Inspired Mantra stands: we're healthy, we're wealthy, we're whole, and we are free. Thank you for tuning in on X, Rumble, and YouTube, and in a live chat. I can't wait to read and hear your questions, my friends. Before we dive into it, I would like to say a few words about yesterday's show where we talked about the fake awakening. And how to distinguish between the real and the fake awakening. It was, I think, highly, actually, very popular show. A lot of people watching it still. And thank you for your amazing comments. And I want to quickly address a few of the very critical or even outright nasty comments, which, you know, that is an eternal truth. I can only be responsible for what I say, not for what anyone hears. And people hear things based on their traumas, based on their belief systems, and they interpret things. If you've been with us for any length of time and you know, you accuse me of denying a creator, our creator, then you haven't been with us for any time. That is literally where the source of everything is. What I often talk about is the deceptions that we're exposed to in this realm. And this was what yesterday's show was partially about. And it also pointed to the truth movement, the truth vibrations, and the true awakening, which is recognizing yourself to be infinite consciousness. So I wanted to say that. And to, you know, to the critics, I just invite you to come watch, but mainly explore for yourself, research for yourself. You know, if you felt that you were disappointed by the footage you saw of the fake guru, Sadhguru, yesterday, well, that is what he says. That is what he believes, and that's who he really is. Another WEF mouthpiece, and literally peddling the same agenda as Klaus Schwab and the others, just masquerading as a spiritual guru. That doesn't mean that stuff that he says isn't true. Some of the stuff he says, it's very profound and true. That's the whole point of it. The whole point is to pull people in. All right. That was, you know, a little bit about yesterday's show. And now, without further ado, Christine's going to pick the questions intuitively, and then we're going to answer some questions. Oh, she's on both screens today.
Oh my God. Yeah. I'm like, Trudy asked the question right up there.
You want to highlight it on the screen?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. I'm so sorry. I'm a little overwhelmed today.
She's distracted.
I am not used to.
Are you flirting on that other screen?
Yes, and I have to, you know, enter to all those comments and say hello and whatnot, but I'll have it in a second.
Man.
There you go.
All righty. Okay.
I'm sorry about that.
Trudy. Friends, can you hear me now? We had a little bit, I'm sorry, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties here, and now we're running through the wrong mic. My bad, friends. My bad. I'm sorry about that. Give me one moment. My apologies, friends. This is what would happen sometimes. So we're not running a good mic right now, and I don't know why, but let's just go. Trudy says, again, audio issues, my apologies. Trudy says, hi from Wyoming. Hey, Trudy. Question: I've never been a believer in reincarnation, but if 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 that is true, what is the best way to avoid coming back here and reliving all of this again? No way, no how, seriously. Well, I think, first of all, I think there's overwhelming evidence, if you look, that reincarnation, or the coming back, the continuous coming back, is a real thing. I think, that sort of is a given now. I would say that the most important thing, and that seems to be an answer for many other questions too, the most important thing is to reconnect with the highest aspect of you and to reconnect with the Creator, because that is our only ability, or through that we have the ability to tap into the field that contains all answers and truths. And it has never been my intention to be the provider of these answers. It's more like we tap into this field through certain practices, and that's what we pull out of it. So in more open and general terms, I think, just like in life, just like while we are here in these bodies, there are temptations, there are seductions, and there are imitations of real things. So this matrix actually teaches us. Just a few days ago, a week ago, a little over a week ago, I was having one of the worst nights of my life. I was in excruciating pain, and I was in a delirious state. And during that state, what you might call the devil or a dark force, or literally came through and made me an offer. And the offer was that that dark force can take away my pain immediately if I agree to something. And I didn't. I turned him down. Of course, I turned the devil down. But these temptations come over and over again in life, especially when we're in an out of balance situation. And if we can stay true to who we are, then the light, the path is always illuminated for us. Then the true path is illuminated. So more than anything, it's not an intellectual exercise. It's actually staying true to who you are. And if you are an expression of infinite consciousness, which you are, and if you're an infinite creator being, which you are, if you're a divine spark, which you are, then why would you need these imitations? The only problem that most humans are having is to acknowledge and accept that the deception goes on after we leave this body. That reincarnation and maybe the entire karmic wheel are actually a sophisticated program to keep us in a loop. I know this is defying thousands and thousands of years of spiritual traditions and teachings, but here we are, right? That's what we're doing. It's exploring truth. So what I would say is that if you connect while you are still in this body with what is really home, origin energy, source energy, and if you make that your focal point in life to live like that, I don't think you can be deceived as you leave this body to go into any fake expression of that or any imitation of that. And I would say that anything that resembles the hierarchical system as we have it here is still part of a deception. I simply don't think that there are all these levels and that there are, that there is a group of people who determine for us how far we can advance or not. But for that, we have to be connected, and for that, we have to have access to higher consciousness. So, I know this probably isn't exactly the answer that you might have been looking for, but this is the best I can do without breaking my own rules. Let me see if we can get that audio problem fixed now. No, it just won't cooperate today. I'm sorry about that, friends. We're just having not so good audio today. Okay, Dub J has been with us also for a very long time. Howdy, y'all. Why do you think the powers that be seem hell-bent on destruction of our souls and this planet? Is it as described in Gnosis, in Gnosis, in the Gnostic teachings, with them being the demiurge, i.e. creators, rulers of this place? Well, in my experience, I've been always very curious. In my perception, there is always how things are presented to us, and then there is how things really are. It doesn't matter if it's business, medicine, finance, or wherever you go. If you go and open the doors and actually look how it really works, it usually is the exact opposite of how it is presented to us. So that seems to be a principle at work. It seems to be that we are in an inverted state. And that's why when we go on this spiritual awakening journey and we actually make that turn again to being the way we were designed to be, everything seems so incredibly crazy to us and actually nonsensical and destructive. I think we are born into a grid, an electromagnetic grid that creates a sense of reality that isn't actual reality. So everything that we touch, that we see, that we smell, that we taste, I think it's heavily manipulated or created to keep us in a certain state of perception. Now, then you might ask, well, who would benefit from that and why? Right? I mean, why would that even happen? And there are no human answers to that, but there seem to be answers from a creator standpoint. It seems that as consciousness has split up into God knows how many parts, part of that consciousness has distanced itself so far from the actual creator and the actual intention of the creator that it became its exact opposite, a destructive force. And that destructive force has certain abilities, and it has used those abilities to create an entrapment system that pulls in consciousness and keeps it at a very, very low state. So I think when we read the Gnostic teachings and when we read other spiritual and cultural traditions, we find this same pattern that there seems to be an invisible wall. And the only way for us to climb that wall is to expand consciousness beyond what we see, hear, taste, and touch, far beyond. I think that in the next weeks, months, and short years, that picture will become very visible. So I think people will see more and more demon-like beings in our realm. They will see some of the darkest and craziest shit. And it will become clearer and clearer to them what is really going on. You know, I haven't found any other answers, and I haven't found any other source of peace than expanding my consciousness beyond this realm and accepting that this world just might not be this beautiful place created by God, by the prime creator, but that there's actually an entire system of deception and falsehoods in place. That's not easy to accept for no one, by the way. That's not easy to, because we all want to believe something else. However, in my life, overcoming deceptions has always been rewarded by great, great experiences of greater truth. So, this is all I can say. Thank you for the great question. A place and a thing. Interesting name, by the way. Do you think there might actually only be one timeline with technologies like Looking Glass showing potential or theoretical futures, but with only one true future actually emerging? Well, man, this is not an easy question. Let me start from an individual standpoint. You experience a particular reality. And I've said this many times over. Your neighbor might be just a few feet away, but your neighbor might experience a completely different reality. So the first key is your own programming, upbringing, belief systems. That determines greatly how you experience reality, how you interpret it, and how you judge it. So with that, we might say that there are as many realities as there are expressions of consciousness. But then there is a collective reality that we can all observe, right? Like people say, there are events that everybody can see and everybody can study. So we do have a collective experience of reality as well. Um, I think that we are currently experiencing the greatest split energy between those who are consciously and intuitively and intentionally moving upward. So consciously raising their consciousness every single day, that's their main focal point. And those who are hypnotized by the happenings in the 3D reality and perceive this to be the only reality. So I'll circle back to my initial observation is that what you and I might perceive as timelines are actually different levels of consciousness observing something. The truth is that you and I only have control over our own level of consciousness, of our own expansion, of our own perceptions. We have no control over anything else. So that's why every news story that we share and every conspiracy, if you will, that we share actually is only there to provide enough contrast for people to go, okay, so the only way is for me to remember who I really am. That is the only way. That is all that you can do. But when you do it, your life begins to shift greatly. And you are naturally inspired to help others do that. I think those who can look into the future, which is an illusion, by the way, because time doesn't exist, those who can look into expressions of a potential future, what they see is the most likely scenario based on where we are right now. And as a matter of fact, it's not vastly different from putting a lot of data into a computer and asking the computer what the most likely scenario is. But consciousness can change that, and it does. So if you put out a prophecy of a big negative event that many seers and remote viewers are seeing, then because of the mass awareness of it, if that mass awareness doesn't resort to fear, but actually chooses to transmute this, then these almost certain events often don't come to pass. So I can't say for sure that there's only one timeline. I can't say for sure that as omnidimensional beings, we can't go back and forth between different realities. I do think we can. but there seems to be a shared experience that we're going through right now that is so important and so essential that that is what we need to focus on. There seems to be a mission in place that we are fulfilling, I think it is an ancient mission that we've tried over and over again to accomplish. And something tells me we're closer than ever before. So that's why we're so focused on the work that we do. Slick 102. What do you think about NDE experiences? Wondering because I had a very telling one in 2014 and I saw all that is happening now and more. Well, I haven't had this out of body NDE experience that a lot of people describe, but I've had shorter ones and sort of little flashes. But what appears to me is that what is experienced during a near-death experience, that is based on the level of consciousness that the person who has it is at. Like I said in the very beginning, answering the first question, it is only our limited thinking that would think that the deceptions, the lies, the conspiracies, the manipulation, and the control system cease to exist when we leave this body. Why anyone would think that, I don't know. It isn't very sensical, but it is comfortable. So I think that most NDEs share certain elements. I also think that if the people who had an NDE had really visited what they thought was heaven or the real prime reality, they, they wouldn't have come back to tell the story. I think what happens during NDEs for the most part is still part of the control system and the karmic wheel and the program. Well, that is my perception of it. Not popular, but okay. Amy Boyd, what's your inner standing under resets we go through every so many years? I study with Jason from Archaics. Your thoughts? I have probably as much insight as you have, to be honest. I listened to Jason. I looked at his data. This is not my area of expertise, but I have seen other researchers in the past who have focused on cyclical events and who have found patterns that are maybe different numerically speaking, but that are just as not accurate, but just as precise in their perception. So basically, people say, well, every 26,000 years something happens, or every 2,000 years something happens. And Jason has found this pattern of 138 years, and then a bigger pattern, and I forget that number, but it might be I don't know. I won't speculate, but I know the 138 years to Phoenix phenomenon. I mean, the man has studied this for 25 years, looked at an unimaginable amount of data, and has made it his life's work, right? So that accounts for something. I think that resets happen. I think that the development that we can examine that happened after 1902 until now makes very little sense. Some of it has extreme quantum leaps in it, and other development seems to be consciously stopped from happening. And I look at the technologies. Compare this, the development of this and what it can do, with combustion engines and airplanes, for example. So airplanes still function fundamentally in the same way that they did in the beginning. I mean, we went from prop to turbine engines, but that's about it, the jet engines. But that is still the dominant technology used every day, and it appears to be ancient. We still have power lines like we did in the beginning. Some are now underground, but we still have that. So I think there is an artificiality in the development. Some things are allowed to leap and others are being held back. That would point to an intelligence that is steering this, that is preventing certain things from happening, and that is making other things more likely to happen. That intelligence, Jason Bashir from Archaics has identified as AIX, Artificial Intelligent X, an ancient program that runs this construct and produces cyclical reset events. I think that's very plausible. I think it's very likely that that's what's happening. My naivete, for some reason, tells me that there is nothing that we cannot transcend, that our consciousness has the ability to transcend pretty much anything if it is activated in its fullness. So I fully see the reset unfolding. I believe it will happen, but how it will happen, and this is where I might differ from many others, is determined by us, not by AIX or not by the who runs the simulation. I think we're more powerful than that. Nadia, Julio. Nadia is from Slovenia. If reincarnation is a lie and we can distinguish between memories as experiences and memories as teachings from outside, where do you think one or the other comes from? I got to read that again to make sure I understand. If reincarnation is a lie, I don't think it is a lie. I think it's part of a program. And we can distinguish between memories as experiences and memories as teaching from outside. Where do you think one or the other comes from? So this is getting complex because of the technological electromagnetic field that we're exposed to and its influence on us. So let's push that to aside for a moment. Let's turn back the hands of time to an era where we didn't have that, or at least we didn't know we had it. And then you would say that what you can know, parts of it are saved in our DNA. There are things that we know simply because we exist and they're in our DNA, and we draw from that. Memories of the DNA, information that's there. That's how we express, for example, let's say you never met your biological father, right? You were never exposed to his mannerisms and his way of talking, yet you turn out to be a lot like him. So where does that come from? Well, that's clearly information that comes from the DNA that he passed on. So that's one source of that information. Most people operate within that spectrum of what they learn through the brain and what they have in terms of information in their DNA. Consciousness is the infinity factor. Consciousness taps into the field of infinite information. There is an artificial field of information, which I think the Akashic Records actually is a technological cloud that mimics the real field, but doesn't contain some of the most important information that's in the real field. And only consciousness can do that. So once again, if we don't focus on that, if we don't practice transcending the brain and the thoughts and even our DNA, transcending it, the only thing that can transcend that is consciousness. You can expand your consciousness beyond your body, beyond the room you're in, even beyond the planet you live on. Since you can do that, there are no limits to how far you can expand it. So the only possible answers can be found in the field of all answers and all information, and the only way to access it is consciousness. See, so those are prerequisites. Within this matrix, we can only learn what we're allowed to learn. If we expand beyond it, we can know anything. I hope this points sort a little bit closer to the answer you were looking for. Who ate my hat? My goodness, you guys are coming up with names. Do you believe that we choose our individual life experience to some degree as our soul before we are incarnated? Or do you believe that it's more to do with karma? Okay, so I'll do my best. There is a complex, strong program in place That program provides for your education, it provides for your entertainment, it provides for all kinds of distractions, it provides for your joy, for your pleasures, for your needs. As you live in this realm here, and most people are just focused on that. They're focused on their needs, their pleasures, their desires, their satisfactions. And they live life to fulfill those. And they never ask greater questions. So I'm going to ask you a greater question. And I asked it yesterday. You might not have been here, but yesterday I asked it. Do you believe that you have free will? It's a serious question. Do you believe that you have free will? Free will being the unconditional ability to choose and direct your thoughts, beliefs, and actions. The unconditional ability. Do you believe you have that? If the answer is yes, then the law of karma, which people interpret as something you cannot escape, contradicts the idea that you have absolute free will. And I don't accept that. I have absolute free will. So in my absolute free will, I can actually jump off the karma wheel and decide not to participate in the cycle any longer. So it is my current understanding that there is a mass of people here that have not come here voluntarily using their free will, but that they have been continually deceived to keep coming here through the wheel of karma and the wise elders and everything that in between. And then there is a critical mass of people that you could call lights, if you will, that have come here voluntarily. So they have actually already jumped off the karma wheel. They've actually already seen through this program, but have voluntarily come through the veil of forgetfulness. And they have chosen to be here and overcome their programming to the best of their abilities in order to find the truth and then share it with others so many more can finally transcend this prison planet, this prison existence. I think that is what's happening. So in that, I have absolutely consciously chosen my life experience. I've consciously chosen to come here for this particular reason and nothing else. Not for, endless pleasure trips and just experiencing Earth, but to actually remind or inspire as many people as possible to remember who they really are. But I don't think that is the case for the vast majority of people. The vast majority of people have no inner dialogue, uh, not even rudimentary understanding of what we're talking about here, and do not care. No real thoughts. They just want to eat, sleep, fuck, repeat. Sorry, that's drink. Pleasure, just carnal pleasures. That's all. Molly Madison. I know raising your consciousness is multifaceted. Finding who you are is unique and complex. However, do you have a solid tip, practice, or maybe a less known general action that you feel helps progress? Well, that's what we talk about. By the way, a lot of these things we discuss in depth in our locals community, inspired.locals.com. This is where we go generally deeper, more intimate, more personal. So you'll find a lot of these discussions there, but I'll do my best to answer this. This avatar and the program together provide for an endless possibility of distractions. And people can design their lives so they're constantly acting on their impulses and instincts. It's actually a miserable life. But that's all they know. So the first and most important tip is to become aware of that, to become aware of your impulses and start being in control of that. If your impulse tells you to eat 6 times a day and you know, and I'm not talking about you personally, but generally, 6 times a day and stuff and put a lot of very sugary and artificial stuff in your body, that is not your intuition. That is a disrupted bodily program. If you choose to start controlling your impulses, that is the first level of raising your consciousness. You find the I that is not anchored in your body. You find the I that is not anchored in your brain. You find the I that is not anchored in your biochemistry, but that is actually outside of it, which is consciousness. So first you have to identify what that feels like and how it differs from your thoughts, how it differs from your instincts and impulses. And then you have to apply a lot of discipline to connect with that over and over and over again until you become that again. That requires focus. So if you sit down and you choose to what people call meditate, and you give yourself at least 20-25 minutes, now that requires discipline. It requires of you to not engage in every thought that comes in your mind. It requires of you to ignore noises that are outside of you. It requires of you to ignore the inclination to get up and get a bite to eat or have a cup of coffee or watch a video. So that requires of you to have focused attention. And the more that you practice that, the more your consciousness expands and rises. There's no way for that not to happen. But the key element here is to not give in to the seductions. And by the way, we all fail at that sometimes. We all give in to some of those sometimes. The question is, do you more often than not remain in control and choose a higher perspective or not? That is a decision. That's not something that happens to you. That's not something that anyone else can do for you. It's something that you have to choose and you have to want it. And once you do choose it, and once that becomes you, you will wonder why you ever chose to live differently. Mark Southam. Hi, Jean. Hi, Mark. If we accept that everything is created by the one creator and that everything is connected, then isn't it worthy to explore for what reason we were created? Was it to observe novelty? What if at birth, right after you were born, you would have been taken to an island, to a bare island? There's a few trees, there's a few bushes, there's some water source, just enough to sustain you. And the island sits in the middle of a body of water that's not very clean. It's okay, but not very clean. And you are being brought up in the belief that this is all that exists, is that island. This is it. There's nothing else. That is it. That's your reality. And inside of you, for some reason, there is a constant longing or a knowing that there must be something more. This can't be it. This can't be it. There is a beauty inside of you that isn't really reflected in the world around you. So where does that come from? Because all even semi-awakening people that I've met have that feeling. They feel that there must be something more. So here's my question to you. Do you accept that island and what you've been taught is true and real? And do you only try to find the best possible perspectives on that island and choose to just find and observe and live there? Or do you trust your inner knowing and your intuition that there must be something more, and you explore and you expand and you do whatever it takes for you to find that. I am the latter. Okay. I was told over and over again, this is the world that God created for us. This is it. This is the real thing. And it's beautiful and it's amazing and it's wonderful. And that's just not what I found. There are some really wonderful aspects. Yes, there are some really beautiful things, but they pale in comparison to what I can see and feel inside of me. They pale in comparison to what I have experienced in expanded states of consciousness, like pale in a way that isn't even funny. This is a cheap imitation. And we can either try over and over again to convince ourselves that this is it, or we can give in to that longing of our consciousness and our spirit to expand beyond it and see for real what there really is. So I feel like we're finding different ways to ask the same question today and lead back to the same answers.
Yeah.
T Rose, thanks for the live. You're so welcome. I was originally drawn to you because of the topics, but more so because it felt like you were a God-fearing patriot. Not much mention of our creator lately. Okay. I don't fear God. I don't fear our creator. And I'm 100% in love with this land. I love the people. I love the potential that it stands for. I just don't buy into this is the way that a patriot should look like. This is what he should talk about, and this is what he should support. If you love, and when I say I love this land, it is where I chose to be. It is where I chose to express myself fully, and it is where I chose to have as much impact as I can have for expansion and betterment, right? Um, why I would fear my creator, I will never know, because if my creator needs to be feared, and if that is the highest expression that there is in all of existence, then we're fucked. My creator is a loving, positive creator force, all encompassing. It's it's a love that's immeasurable. It's a potential that is immeasurable. And my and your creator, in my perception, equipped us with free will. So we can choose to become the best possible version of ourselves and inspire others to do so, or we can choose to do the opposite. It's up to us. I choose every day to become the best possible version of myself. And that includes doing whatever I can for the betterment of all. But does that mean that I have to support a specific candidate that is the only patriot out there? That I have to support a specific party or a specific box? No, not at all. Quite the opposite, actually. Sorry. uh, me, B. Seen the new Guardians of the Looking Glass video? Yep. When can we expect a discussion with Frank Jacob? Soon. Are the Guardians of the Looking Glass the same group as the source of We Are Sovereign drops? Well, that has been my suspicion from the beginning when they came out, and the We Are Sovereign drops. That's Gideon, and I've tuned in and out of that because I saw that a lot of people engaged with that. I don't think that this group, the Guardians of the Looking Glass, if you will, have any connection to the original creators or the original programs that are in the secret military programs and intelligence programs. I don't think they're in any way, shape, or form connected to that. Frank and I will surely talk about it. we'll discuss it. But I wouldn't hold my breath that there's going to be anything mind bending there with the Guardians of the Looking Glass. That's where I stand today. Yeah. Was that it? No more questions?
Oh, they're talking about David Icke being controlled opposition, and I asked if they would have proof of it, but of course nobody has.
Okay, but I want to let's
they're
remove.
saying that how does anyone find proof of controlled opposition? Though I said we're all humans, and accusations like that are horrible. Also, David Icke is a human; he has a family, and just because I feel like accusing someone, that's a horrible thing to do.
Can we remove this? I'll try to remove this from the screen. This last comment. Okay, I'm gonna just address that because I've heard that so many times. David Icke is controlled opposition. Let me see if I can find this comment and move it off.
No, it was very off, but I
it's
can't
fine.
Find it anymore.
So the question is David Icke controlled opposition? Okay, so what is controlled opposition? The very definition of controlled opposition is that the forces that want to control our minds, perceptions, and everything else know that we are always going to rebel against anything that boxes us in. So to control opposition means that you either find a rebel or you create a rebel that gives the people a little bit of rebellion, but ultimately leads them to a safe direction, either a particular political candidate or a particular belief system, a religion, so that it's like a funnel. Let's get a lot of people in here. Let's give them some of what they want, the conspiracies, the rabbit holes, whatever, and then funnel them to where we want them to be. Either a safe political candidate that looks like a rebel, or like I said, a specific religious institution that they control, whatever. Does that apply to David Icke in any way, shape, or form? Has David Icke ever done any of those things? Has he ever promoted a specific belief system? Has he ever promoted a specific political party after his own awakening? For a very short period of time, he used to be part of the Green Party in the UK. So what David Icke is saying is recognize yourself as consciousness and ask more and more and bigger questions. Do not accept convention. Do not accept just something because it's tradition, but follow that inner quest that you have and explore and explore. He's not saying this is it. He's not saying this is the solution. He's not saying this is the conclusion. It's more and more and more expansion. So if you call him controlled opposition, then you have to show what exactly he is controlling and where exactly he's trying to lead people to. Because there is no specific place that he's trying to lead people to. And that in and of itself, yeah, other than to their true self, and that in and of itself is more than enough proof that the guy is not controlled opposition. But for those who, and think about it too, David Icke was banned from most of Europe. He can't travel through Europe. He can't travel to Australia. He can't go to New Zealand. He most likely can't go to Canada and the United States. And the media, after years of ridiculing him, has now just stopped talking about him altogether. So he really has very, very bad conditions to bring stuff out to the people. So how he would be controlled opposition, it's beyond me. We've had conversations, we've had him on. We'll have him on in a week, by the way. He's coming back. And we've had him on before a couple of times and had interviews, or 3 times, I think. And we've had conversations off camera. David Icke's the most real and authentic, and by the way, funny guy that you could possibly imagine. There's no hidden motive, no agenda. He doesn't hold back on camera. He doesn't He is exactly who you see him to be. Um, if that is controlled opposition, my friends, then then I must be, and we must be controlled opposition too, which you've been accused of before
Many times.
many times. And to that I say, the damn checks seem to get lost in the mail. We're not getting any checks. We're not getting any instructions. Threats, sure, but fuck that. I've never given any threats. I won't start now. The thing is, these subjects that you all asked about today, and that are such important subjects, we can talk in circles for years. You can't just intellectualize something and then think that is it. The entire idea is to admit to yourself that you have been living in the small part of you, and that you acknowledge that there is a much bigger infinite part of you. Your life begins again. It actually begins for the first time. This being trapped inside our avatars, inside our brains, and only looking at 3D reality, it's not life, it's surviving and existing at best. Life begins when we reconnect with the infinite part of ourselves. That cannot be intellectualized. You cannot just think your way there. You have to actually give yourself permission to go there. This is a practice. This requires discipline, and you have to be willing to let that former self die in the process, because you can't be both at the same time. You have to be willing to let your former self die in the process. Anything else to address?
Someone is saying, I have been told because he's not calling the exact people out. He has stated many and did some hand signs.
Yeah, I won't even dignify that with a comment. David Icke has freaking arthritis, has had it for many years. So, but here's okay. Here, I'll give you some. So what? Now I'm a Satanist. You know how many times you can screenshot me scratching my eye like this and then say, "Oh, look, he's covered one eye. Oh, look, he's doing the pyramid. Oh, look." Come on. Do you not see how you're being played and manipulated, and how it takes so much more than that? I'm not saying that some of this stuff isn't real and true. Of course it is. But there is an entire industry, and there's an entire section of the intelligence community, the three-letter agencies, the CIA and the NSA, and many of those who you've never heard about. Their only job is to instigate these discussions online. Their only job is to discredit real truth speakers and elevate the false prophets. That's all that they're paid to do every single day. Can you imagine that there are millions of dollars going into that? Come on. And the only way for you to distinguish between truth and fiction is to be connected. There's nothing in this physical reality that can do that for you. You have to be connected. You have to feel it. You have to feel it in your spirit. Your spirit will guide you to the truth every single time. All right. Friends, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your great questions. It's not, this is some cutting edge stuff. And I, some days I wonder how we will get there to the place that we want to get. And then other days, like yesterday, when I read through all the beautiful comments you all had to yesterday's show, I go, yes, we are getting there. We are expanding. So thank you. We love you. We appreciate you. And we will be back with you again very, very soon.
Right now, you could be only a few clicks away from experiencing something amazing, something that has changed thousands of lives all over the world. I'm talking about a high consciousness field similar to those at pilgrimage sites and sacred places. It's where people go to heal, to connect, and to become the best possible version of themselves. With FLFE, you can bring such a high consciousness field into your home right now. It's a spiritual quantum technology based on the work of Nikola Tesla. Better sleep, more energy, greater well-being, improved finances, electrosmog mitigation. These are only some of the things people on the FLFE service are experiencing. Try it now for 15 days completely free of charge, no credit card needed. Just click on a link down below to start your free, no strings attached FLFE trial right now.